I'm John Reitz, CEO of Thread. And today, I want to spend some time talking about the importance of data unification to benefit decentralized, more modern clinical research studies. The power of data unification is that we can help the industry to move research to where it's not just happening in the clinic, but to where it's actually happening in the home and on the go. And we have a real keen opportunity today to continue this push that we've had in our industry to modernize how research studies are done and to bring studies to participants. My company, Thread, focuses on helping our customers do a few things. We help them think about this modern, decentralized study by walking them through and supporting them in their design, in their operation, and in their scale. We do this through a fully configurable omni-channel research platform. The technology stack is powered by AWS and provides a suite of features and tools that help our customers, and more importantly, our patients and sites, to do things like electronic consent and electronic data capture and eCOA, and to conduct telehealth virtual visits in people's homes. We do this by using all the features in the platform to actually take validated assessments that traditionally only happen in the clinic and distributing those so that they can happen wherever a patient is or lives. Everything Thread does is backed by our consulting services. Our consulting services include our teams that help design the most patient-centric studies. And then our consulting services also support our customers with technology implementation and support throughout the life of a clinical study. The reason we do this is our 1530 mission. And this mission is aligned with what our customers are trying to achieve as they transform clinical research. Our customers and our industry has very key challenges right now that need to be overcome. And the data unification and technology approaches that we're providing have an opportunity to achieve this mission and overcome these challenges in the market today and in years to come. For me, this is really important because I had an opportunity really early in my career to be a participant in a clinical trial. And very long story, very short, I'm a clinical trial dropout and I'm ashamed to admit it. I had the chance to, as I tell a lot of people, shop in the store I helped manage. And frankly, when I went to go shop in that store, I realized very personally that this clinical trial was not built for me, that it wasn't able to collect data from me where I worked and where I lived. And this clinical trial required a lot of me that I really, frankly, couldn't offer to the study because I had a life and I had kids and I had work to do. And so one of the reasons that we feel this 1530 mission is so powerful is I know that I'm not alone. And we all know as an industry that participants all fall in these categories. And so one of the things that we're doing about that is providing the One, which is a comprehensive platform. That comprehensive platform is the technology we need to collect data, unify data, and making it accessible for research. And we're doing this to help speed up recruitment, to help better engagement and retention in clinical trials, but ultimately to help improve satisfaction of clinical research for participants, caregivers, sites, and study teams that are involved in research to make it work. 5 times more inclusive is our drive to not just design studies that look more patient-centric, but to actually engage real people, real participants that would be in a study, and have them help us co-create the protocols, how the study will be conducted, where the visits occur, and how flexible or not flexible they should be. In doing that, we're able to build studies that decentralize studies so that they can be inclusive to everybody involved and that we can better represent what our global real-world populations look like. And the 30 in our mission is really about efficiency. It's how do we drive workflow efficiency in studies to make sure that we take a lot of the manual efforts that still exist today in research and convert those to where our technology and platforms automate the processes, automate the documentation, and automate the workflows and support. In doing that, we're actually removing cost out of research because we're removing core manual features that we've done as an industry for more than 30 years. This 1530 mission is what we feel helps our customers to transform research and to overcome those challenges that we currently are running into. Now, what I want to do is take a few minutes and I want to break down 3 distinct case studies. These 3 distinct case studies hopefully will really bring to life what a modern unified platform is doing to actually help modernize and take studies to the next level. It really starts first in design. When you think about design, this is where customers are building a protocol, a model for how they want to conduct a study. That protocol is so key because it defines how the study will actually be conducted, what data is going to be collected, how it's going to be collected, and where it's going to be collected. Our model for design has been to bring in our experts, our scientists, to help our customers design the most patient-centered study possible. And in this particular use case, we had a really unique opportunity to help a customer with a key challenge. The key challenge is they had a Parkinson's study. And this Parkinson's study was very complex. It had a large number of clinical outcomes assessments. It had a number of visits in the clinic. It had a number of visits they wanted to conduct in the home, some with home health and some without. We received that protocol and we got to work. And when we got to work, we worked through our Modus Outcomes team to really define the outcomes, to engage participants, and to really figure out what components of that protocol would be best suited to happen in the clinic, in the home, and with what assessments. But the most impactful thing is in that discussion with the customer, they had a very strong opinion about a few visits. And they said these visits have to happen in the clinic because the patient just has to come in and do it this way, and that's just the way it is. And when our teams looked at it, they said, well, how sure are we that these are actually achievable by participants? And so the net of that conversation was we said, well, let's ask those participants. So we utilized other features of our platform to actually engage participants and co-create directly with them, meaning we gave the protocol to participants and their caregivers after recruiting them with our model in just under a week. After we recruited the patients, we were able to capture mixed method data from them, meaning survey and voice. And what was impactful is when the sponsor and the Thread team got back together to review everything that had been done here in a very short period of time. We were able to say, here's what we learned from patients. Here's what this more patient-centric study looks like. But more importantly, we were able to show them and let them hear what it was, not from our words and our insights, but from the actual participants themselves. And so one of the most powerful things I got to be a part of was opening up the technology platform, clicking on the play button, and letting an Instagram-like story version of participants all talk through the challenges they saw in the protocol, what they liked about the study, and what they really needed the study to do for them so that they would participate. What I'll tell you is if you fast forward to the end of this use case, we were able to take those insights, take the data that we captured from the study, but more importantly, take the co-creation and the voice files from the participants and caregivers themselves to actually implement and change how that study was designed so that it was more conducive and inclusive to them and their lifestyle. Now, when we shift gears from designing a patient-centric study, we have to think about operating one. Operating clinical trials is complex. We work in a very complex regulatory environment. And when you look at decentralized studies like the case studies we're talking about today, these are not just US only studies. These are studies happening in more than 50 countries around the world today. And so what's really important around the operating model, especially in our data unification strategy, is that we're able to capture data that meets regulatory requirements no matter where we're at, whether we're in Europe, Asia Pac, Latin America, Africa, or North America. The requirements and restrictions for where data is captured, how it's stored, and how it's queried are very complex and very specific. Our ability to meet that actually helps us to operate this more modern study. So when we look at operating, one of the case studies we have is around measuring our performance and publishing this. So this data was published, is publicly available. And what we did is we had an opportunity over the year 2020 to look at our decentralized studies. So studies that were utilizing Thread in both a hybrid and fully decentralized model, and compare those through a partnership with a company called Lokavant to industry benchmark data. Meaning we took our studies and compared them to around 1,400 traditionally designed studies to actually see where the differences were and see where our studies may have performed better or worse in key metrics like recruitment and retention. In this work, we were able to use our descriptive and predictive analytics, but also all the data that we had unified in these studies to really make an active comparison to those studies. And what's really interesting about 2020 is we were doing this work before the pandemic, and you can actually see in the data where the pandemic started and lockdowns occurred, where every study, no matter if it was decentralized or traditional, kind of went on hold and paused. But what's really intriguing about the data is then you can see separation happen, because weeks after those pauses happened, our studies continued to be resilient because they were able to recruit and retain patients, where the traditionally designed studies continued to have challenges and dropped below their averages and stayed there for the majority of the year 2020. So in our data unification model, but also in our model to bring studies to patients, we were able to save visits that would not have ordinarily occurred because we could have these visits happen via telehealth or via telehealth with home health in people's homes when they could not get into a clinic or weren't willing to because of the situation the pandemic had put us in. When we think about this benchmark work, what I think is really important is that there's more data being published, more data coming out. But today, you can see instant benefits of decentralizing studies in the research programs that are launched today. Now, last but not least is moving from designing a patient-centric study to operating one to scaling it. And scale really has two components. Scale is around the platform and the technology being able to scale, but it's also around the change management principles that are needed to really help ambassadors and companies move in this direction. Thread has a number of customers that have invested and spent time over the last years to really not just pilot, but conduct their initial studies. And those customers have now moved to scale. When we look at this one example, there's one enterprise customer we have that's been with us now for about 5 years. This customer moved from their pilots to their initial studies where they operated and were able to track the return on investment, to now the model they're in where they're looking to do 100 studies over the next 3 years. In the scale model, what becomes really critical and really important is our continued ability to make our platform self-service, meaning the platform is configurable and we can help them deploy studies, but they also have the opportunity to do it themselves if they want to faster scale or do more rapid studies on their own. What the data unification does, though, is it gives our customers access to their own KPIs, to their own analytics, to their own reporting through the various tools that we're using, powered by AWS, to make these available to these customers in real time. When we look at this work, what's really exciting is this customer is now in study 20 plus, and they've been able to take the lessons that were learned in the patient-centric design and the operating model and apply them to scale, so that now what they're seeing is an average of 4 months cut off their recruitment timelines. They're seeing reduced costs in their clinical trials by more than 20%. And third is they're actually able to take some study designs and kick them off, start these studies in days and weeks, not months and years. So their ability to really take on this patient-centric design in decentralized studies is coming to fruition for them at very large scale. So when you think about where we've come today and what we've talked about, this unified data proposition is the key approach for Thread, and it's really how we're transforming clinical research. What we're doing is bringing all these components that you see together. We're helping studies to be comprehensive, meaning any patient, no matter where they are, no matter what device they have, can get into technology to contribute data. They can contribute that data from wherever they are, not just in the home, not just on the go, not just in the clinic, wherever they need to be and wherever they are at that moment. We've also built flexibility into the model so that patients can participate at their choice. So in some studies where patients can choose if they want to come into a clinic or they want to do a visit via telehealth. More importantly, what I would say is what we've been able to do across the board is do this so it's very seamless and simple for patients, but it's also conducive, supportive, and simple for researchers. Researchers and study teams are so key to this patient-centric model that we're introducing with decentralized studies. And we have a real opportunity to decrease their burden and make it easier for them to support these studies and to do them at larger scale. And so as we move forward and we think about being patient-centric, we're also being very site-centric and very study team-centric to make sure that everything we're unifying is making it easier for these study teams to conduct research in this modern way. Because the data, the analytics, the notifications are now at their fingertips like they've never been before. When we look at the end goal of all of this unified data, it's bringing everything together in one place so that patients, again, can enroll from wherever they live across the world. But the real key here is that transforming clinical research always comes back to the data. So our sponsors now have one place with fully integrated data available to them from Thread, powered by AWS, to make decisions and to have insights on their products and on what they're bringing to market to help save and transform people's lives. I always go back to the story where I was a clinical trial participant and the one where I had to drop out. And there is a little bit of a better ending to that story. The better ending to that story is we all have an experience like this, where we get involved in healthcare or research and we see something that is broken. We see something that is not working as well as we want it. We now have a very keen opportunity to utilize technology and data unification to bring this to life, to make it work. And what I'm excited about is that Thread is doing that work today. And in our collaboration with Amazon, we're doing this work in a very unique way because we're automating and really enhancing AI and machine learning models that are helping take automation in research to the next level, helping to actually better support participants in seeing their data and their active analytics so they know what it's like to participate in a study and they see how they compare to others in a program, but also helping sites with new insights and new analytics and new notifications that will drive them to really understand how to do something next without having to sit down and read the data and think through it. The ability for us to really continue to automate research is the next foray that changes. And we're excited to be announcing that and doing that with AWS today. If you'd like to learn more about Thread, you can learn more about us at threadresearch.com. Thanks for your time and enjoy the rest of the conference.